In recent years, the topic of reducing college tuition rates, or in some cases, eliminating fees for college classes, has been a popular topic for debate in political circles. As college costs continue to rise, graduation rates are subpar for both private and state-funded universities. Because of this dichotomy, the high costs of higher education are worthy of conversation. Those that say they believe tuition costs should be removed entirely often point to the fact that the economically disadvantaged students pay the most. As tuition currently stands, many do not have access to school beyond high school due to the initial cost. Beyond those students, plenty more find that they cannot complete their desired education because they cannot sustain the fiscal requirements while working on their degree. However, this does not solve the entirety of the problem and in turn could create additional complications for schools considering that many students can't afford higher education. The easiest solution to providing a collegiate education for everyone that would also enable the greatest number of students to get an advanced education while retaining value for attending college would be to create a basic free tuition system that has academic, financial, and social merits attached. Eliminating college tuitions entirely would likely have negative long-term effects on the college system as it currently stands in America. Much of the value derived from attending college comes from the fact that it is not an alienable right but a privilege for those that can reach the coveted goal of college graduate. The fact that a college costs money creates a value to the experience in and of itself. Private schools that offer a superior or elite experience can cost even more. Additionally, the fact that college does cost money means that for many it requires added dedication to be able to pay for said experience. This all creates a value that can allow for the experience to be taken more seriously and with it a sense of further accomplishment when one does graduate from the university attended. It also causes a huge increase in students leaving college with enormous debt. Because of these multiple facets, the issue of college costs requires a less simplistic solution than simply removing all costs for tuition. Because the cost of college is expensive, often unaffordable to the lower class, and requiring high student loan debt to the middle class, the need for affordable college tuition must be addressed. Recent studies done by Tom Price shows that the average cost of tuition at a four-year school is around $32,400. Furthermore, some exclusive state schools such as the University of Chicago or UCLA in Los Angeles hover just above $80,000 for a bachelor's degree. Beyond tuition, there are several issues that go into causing a student to struggle for college. Andrew Kelly reported that even if students could afford lower tuition prices, high living costs could become an obstacle that may prevent them from completing their degree. Currently, there are many scholarships and alternative funding sources available for college students that come from the lower classes with limited income. For basic degrees, it is not too difficult to apply for this aid. As tuition costs grow larger, the ability to access these funds can be complicated and difficult. As students advance, especially if their grades are good, it should not be more difficult to get funding. As the system is, these complications make it more difficult for students to keep up with the necessary rigors associated with doing well in school and can even lead to students dropping out. An article posted by the Washington Post states that nearly a third of low-income student loan borrowers drop out. Looking at the statistics, it becomes easier to see why a simple monetary merit system needs to be in place. Financial requirements should be judged on student income earning, in this case, and not family money, which not all students have access to. Considering that students have no income, and ideally school should be their main focus, affordable tuition would be tiered based on the consensus that a student would not make much of an income. Additionally, because for those that graduate, there are financial issues that affect students long beyond attending college. Currently, many students that are not quite too poor for college will pay for their advanced education through student loans. These must be paid off in the years after they graduate. As younger generations watch those older than them struggle with student loan debt, they are less likely to want to saddle themselves with this kind of burden. This can cause a student to second-guess going to college and either not attend or drop out. It also creates undue financial hardship for those that do graduate down the line. Creating something akin to a single-payer college tuition program across the board for state schools would eliminate much of the burden of long-term student debt. Beyond encouraging students to enroll in college, the end goal of academic funding should be to raise graduation rates and encourage students to perform better in class. Simply throwing money into schools proves to not be enough in this case. Studies show that low-income students that receive grants to cover most, if not all, their tuition had graduation rates at a mere 22%. Higher education is not simply a right, but something that requires hard work and perseverance. Rewarding such behavior with opportunities to finish their degree with little to no debt gives incentive to get better grades. For this reason, as part of the free tuition guidelines, some kind of academic performance requirements would need to be in place. People in the middle or upper class undoubtedly have more access to higher education. New Republic's Matt Bruenig reports that only 20% of the lowest 2% are enrolled in college at age 19. In contrast, 90% of 19-year-olds from the richest 2% are enrolled. However, excluding the upper class from state funding would not only be unfair, but it would potentially make the already complicated matter of state-funded tuition even more complicated. To keep the value for higher education and to keep the system competitive, private schools should not be required to adhere to the tuition guidelines of out-of-state schools. In conclusion, lowering state college rates to a more reachable price for the average person and subsidizing in whole for those students with an economic hardship while increasing the requirements for academic performance on a merit-based system would provide the opportunity for more students to graduate college successfully and not saddle them with exorbitant debt after they do finish their education. By only putting these free tuition standards on state schools, the competitiveness of college would remain. The elite status of attending certain schools would still exist. By providing free alternatives for certain schools, this would guarantee everyone access to at least a basic higher education as well.